You all are young, I'm old. You all are young people, you have to still have this energy even after lunch, even after a long day's conference, because we want to hear from you all. And we have two guest panelists that will be giving a presentation, but also addressing questions that you may have with them as well. I'm only the moderator, I have no answers. My name is Matthew Ramadan, and I'm your guest moderator for this afternoon on the session of what is driving, or what things will drive or have driven our young people away from the community, being more engaged in the community. What we want to do this session is, as much as possible, not be a gripe session, not be about complaining, but be about being creative. So we'd like to ask you to, instead of saying what I don't like, tell us what we can do differently and how you can help us do those things differently. Because if you just complain, and I was at a meeting earlier today and we were talking about a lot of big things that we're complaining about, and then afterwards a person said to me, I don't believe in the system, I don't vote. And I said, so you're just here to complain, right? You're not going to make any, and you're not going to change anything, you're not going to do anything differently. I said, either you have to do one of two things. Either you have to work within the system to change it, or you have to work outside of the system to change it. But you cannot not work. There's one letter difference between what people often do and what we should be doing, and that's between a D and a K. A lot of people are just about word. Very few people are about work. And that's all the difference in the world between those two little letters. So, rather than having a long lecture first and then you have a chance to talk for 5 minutes afterwards, let's reverse things. Who wants to be first with something they think we could be doing differently or doing better, so that young people don't feel like they have to leave the Muslim community in order to express themselves? Anybody want to be first? Anybody want to be second? Oh, here's one first. Okay. You want to come to the mic? Wait a minute. We do have a cutoff rule. You look older than most of the young people in here.
I'm not that old.
You're not that old? Okay, come on up. There's a mic here.
Somebody want to go on tomorrow? I just have one word, basically, education.
Could you expound on that?
Whether Muslim, doesn't matter. I think education is the key. Along with education, communication goes along with that.
So you think the lack of education is driving young people away, or the type of education? I guess that's the question.
I feel like you have a lot of opportunities to be educated, or there's a lot of access to education, but nobody really wants to take the time necessarily to get into it and actually read it. We're just a social media type of society nowadays. Get everything on television, things of that nature. We don't really necessarily want to take the time out, including myself. I can always do that.
Well, either one of our panelists, either
Jazakallah khair. I think regarding education is what you call one of the biggest keys, and I think one of the concerns, as you were saying, that a lot of times when education, what's happening is, why are we not having kids come to the masjid? We're like, well, we could get it online, and that's always a worry, because I always kind of joke around about when you got Sheikh Google can give you all answers for every question. Some might be good, some might not be the best, and some might just be completely wrong, right? And I think that becomes kind of a situation in how and what we could do. So I mean, the idea of education is very important, but I'm thinking like, okay, what is happening is that now the focal point where everyone wants to get all the information on social media, and the other thing the brother brought up is interaction, is so important that if you look throughout our history, or look throughout even research now, that most individuals learn, like William Glasser, a famous Harvard psychologist, talked about that 10% of what people read is what they learn. But 50 to 95%, 50% of how they retain information is from what they see and hear, 70% is what they discuss, 85% is what they experience, and 95% when they teach someone else. So it's very important that when we are just not learning stuff just by reading and retaining, but when you really understand something is when you get something you could go back and forth, clarify, have a better understanding. And that's why the beauty of our prophet was that when anyone asked a question, you have one question that was asked at least 3 separate times. What is the best of deeds? To one person who said it's best for your wife, to another person who's best to his parents, who takes care of his parents, and to a third person who goes for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that you see the beauty of the Prophet ﷺ was that, look, I'm going to give you your education for you separate, to this person separate. There are some major basic information, but I think that is very important, and I think we want to get your feedback of how do we make sure that kids could come to the masajid, or the center, or the youth center, or maybe go back on social media and give us some suggestions of what you think is the best method of how to get the knowledge that they need, but not just the content, but understanding the context, which we are also speaking to our scholars about.
I would like to maybe get a little bit more into the question, more so, because he said education, and he said that he included himself, which means I would like to know from him or the audience what will appeal to you to get you to do the step of going into the deeper knowledge, because that has to be ultimately your choice. I feel like the internet is there, social media is there, the books are there. Even when I was growing up 10 years ago, there was nothing near the amount of books that are authentically translated in the English language. Before it was always in Arabic and Arabic and Arabic. And if you only read Arabic, you either understood it or you didn't understand it. So some people even didn't understand the Arabic. But now that you have the concept of the English translation or the translation of the Quran in multiple languages, you have everything on the tip of your fingertips. The question goes back to you, and if anybody feels comfortable answering it in the audience, what will drive you to seek deeper knowledge?
I think it's really important to feel accepted by someone. If you have questions or you're lost and you need guidance or you need answers. Usually sheikhs are intimidating. Like when you go up to them, for example, like if a sheikh smiles at you and welcomes you, you feel very comfortable asking questions. And also it's a really bad feeling when you feel like someone's judging you or making you feel like shunned. So usually respect and tolerance and just good treatment makes people comfortable and makes them want to learn.
Okay, just to elaborate on that, every single person, alhamdulillah, Allah is our judge. The human being is kind of harsh on each other sometimes. We're very harsh with each other. But we do a lot of things good, but when we do something wrong, we feel like we're being judged, kind of excluded from the community, instead of them opening their arms and accepting us. And that's something that is wrong, that is something that's an issue. But I want to encourage every single one of you is that you want to not reflect a sheikh with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. We're all human beings. And those shuyukh, not to give anybody like an excuse, but like you, go through ups and downs and have their own personal issues. So sometimes they'll be happy and you'll come to them and they're smiling and all of a sudden you're like, oh, he smiled at me. And sometimes you'll come to him in a mood where he had just maybe got off a rigorous meeting or a family problem and he himself is going through some meeting. So I'm not giving anyone an excuse to do good, but we have to learn to give the benefit of doubt. The way that we want people to give us the benefit of doubt and give us excuses, we have to give people excuses. Second, I do agree with the term accepted but I've learned this with my experience of higher learning, is the more you learn in Islam, the humbler you should be and the easier you become. Because you start to understand the different people, the different types of people, the cultures, where they come from. But I'm sad to say that when people are in one community, they tend to forget their surroundings. So again, just giving excuses, but yes, the reason for that, I reflected on the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Sometimes when you're dealing with people, you don't know how to give them your time. And the more that you care for somebody or you feel like someone will benefit, you give them more time. But we have to actually humble ourselves and do what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did, which every single person that came to him for counseling or had a question, he gave them his undivided attention. SubhanAllah. And that's why he was amazing. He gave them their undivided attention. He looked them in the eyes and he was personal with them. And he was the leader of an ummah of hardship. It wasn't just easy. It wasn't a job that he just sat down and people were doing things for him. No, he did it himself. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to get to understand that and learn from his example. Peace be upon him.
Good news. If you're shy and don't want to come up to the microphone, you can write your question down on a card and we'll read it out for you and just pass it to the center aisle and we'll collect the cards, the questions from you. But I've got a question for you in the audience. For all of you young people who may still attend the mosque or may not attend the mosque, I need some shout outs. What's your favorite place to go as young people? Either Muslim, or Islamic, or non-Islamic. Anybody want to shout out a favorite place? Oh, let's do favorite Muslim centers or places where you can go. Any shout outs? Oh, no, not mine. That might be daycare. Any favorite places? Any favorite organizations? Shout it out. The masjid at your school. Okay. And what school do you go to? So cool. That's what I'm talking about. If you like going there, say I like it. Anybody have any organizations they want to give a shout out to?
Can we ask her why she likes it?
Well, oh yes. Why do you like it?
I like it because nobody is so many
But so many reasons, right?
yeah. That if somebody needs help or person doesn't have any space, another person they give their spot or they
So it's a real lot of brothers and sisters sharing and caring about each other. Is that happening at all of our mosques? Where people, when you walk in and nobody knows you because you're a stranger the first time? Go ahead.
Like, personally speaking, that doesn't happen as often. I feel like a big stem, like the reason that this occurs is cultural barriers. Like in my own mosque, we acknowledge like the Habeeb aunties, the madrasi aunties, and we notice that they're all like, they're separating themselves, establishing these groups, and when these groups are like already established, when new people walk into the masjid, they're shocked. They don't feel included. And I've had aunties tell me this. I've had young girls tell me this, that they feel excluded. And I think a big part of that, or like the reason that someone may not scoot over, is because they just don't feel comfortable going outside of their comfort zone, socializing with other people of different races, of different beliefs. I guess if you're going outside of mosque with different beliefs, and I don't know, creating a comfortable environment for everyone.
Now, let me ask a question. How many people go to public school, the young people, or attended a public school? Can you raise your hand if you have or do attend a public school? And how many go or have attended an Islamic school? Okay, so it's almost evenly divided. All right. For those in the public school, when you walk in the door, how do they assign your seats? By your last name, or how do they assign the seats? Anybody shout it out? Last name? So A's in the front and Z's in the back? That's how they do it? So you can't decide on who you sit next to, right? So some stuff. Okay, so I'm looking at this room, and I'm seeing the majority of females on this side, majority of males on that side. How did this happen? Even for the public school kids, you know, that you can't decide that. Most of the schools are mixed, right? The public schools, right? So we segregate ourselves because we think that's the right thing to do. And we segregate ourselves by gender, we segregate ourselves by class, we segregate ourselves by ethnicity, and we don't break down those barriers. I'm not saying you have to move now a boy sit next to a girl necessarily, but I think what you just made a good point is that we sometimes do it to ourselves and don't even realize we're doing it. Any other shout outs? I asked that question earlier. Any other favorite places? Favorite places? Yes.
My mosque, I
And at your mosque, right? Oh, wait a minute. Has there anybody here who's college age? Okay, so a few. Has anybody ever heard of an organization called Tleib, Chicago? But nobody goes there, right? Tleib. How many people have ever gone to one of their meetings? You guys don't like it though? Nobody put up their hand and said, I like that. Oh, is it cool? Yeah. I wanted to break some big news for you, but I have to wait and see what happens. But they may be getting their own new space. I was at their space last night looking at it. It's huge and easy to get to. So, inshallah, they may have a new space. But I'm like, nobody mentioned that. And I always thought that was one of the coolest organizations. Okay, so it's not quite this age. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Or going back to the original question then, what are some of the other things that we could be doing better to make sure that our young people don't feel like they need to leave from the mosque and not be involved in the mosque? Any other suggestions that anybody else? Yes. You want the mic? Go ahead, please.
My question is, I noticed in the Muslim community how mental health is not really looked at as something that's really important. The same way that somebody can break their arm and get it treated, the same way someone has depression or anxiety needs it to be treated. And I feel like in our cultures, when you are feeling sad, you have anxiety or depression, it's usually just told like, oh, feel better, or no, we don't talk about that. So sometimes the youth are kind of put down and they kind of feel like, okay, well, I can't talk to the older generation. So then the halal is made hard and the haram is made easy. So what are some things, any suggestions that you guys have where we can change that and be able to communicate with each other and help each other?
This is a very major issue now, more than ever before. I've noticed this, especially the mental health issue is something I know is a taboo. A lot of times when they do talk about it, they're like, well, don't worry, we're back home, just deal with it. That's what we dealt with. And I even feel like a lot of our parents' generation had a lot, but they just had to deal with it and just said, you know what, it's my kismet. I just have to deal with it and just kind of go with it, and people just kind of shunned it. So I think first and foremost, I think what's happened is even I noticed clinical centers kind of taken a big role in lately trying to educate our scholars about this and saying, even there's a famous book called Don't Be Sad in Arabic. It's sells millions of copies. But somehow when it comes to like, hey, if it's in our family, oh no, okay, it can't be ours, that must be for someone else. And I think that is a problem. One of the things that I would tell many of your youth individuals, this is where initiatives that we have to sometimes bring up, because we understand that others, they did their best. They sacrificed and they knew what they knew, right? And at the same time, they didn't grow up here, and so this is where we come up and then we have to bring up and say, hey, what can we do and what steps? If that means individuals to open up and find resources through counselors, through support, and one of the biggest ways of a lot of times when people feel like they're by themselves and no one else is the sense of belonging. And I think that was the first sister who brought up. If we could make sure what ideas that you have that could make when a new person comes into the place to make them have a sense of belonging. From the Maslow hierarchy of needs is one of the first ones. Again, 4 ways of how people are motivated or how teachers can motivate students. The first initiative they say, a guy named Dr. Glasser, is sense of belonging. Like when someone feels like you're a part of you, you'll go above and beyond. It's sad, but that's what gangs have done. You know, I worked at Project Education Plus, where they just use that sense of belonging, but they're kind of making them do things they shouldn't be doing. So I think that point, it's very important. And what we have to do in initiatives is that maybe this is something that we have enough capabilities getting the research to get out to the community to go ahead and bring this up. And a lot of it, especially, it's not even by marriage time people think, oh, that's when you need a counselor. I've noticed this in middle school, like 12, 13, 14, where individuals are then when they don't know how to deal with it, you made a good point, then they start cutting themselves or they start using other methods to take care of the pain, which are mostly drugs.
They won't find a solution for it.
Before, people didn't want to admit that there was any mental illnesses or issues. They just felt like it was something wrong with your gene. Like your alpha is not strong, or your faith is weak, and you have to go back to all this kind of stuff.
Or you got a gene inside.
Yeah, or something like that. And then people talk about it all the time. But all you have to do is really, yes, one, it could be your faith is weak, but some people really do have a problem. They need to be counseled, and they want to feel secure when they're being counseled. They don't want their personal story being shared with the congregation. So I do understand that there is a big problem, and inshallah, the one thing that I do want is, like Brother said, is education. The more you see that in your community, that you shouldn't shy away from it and move away from it. No, you should actually be part of the solving of the problem. And sometimes it takes a lot of courage and strength, but I feel that sometimes when youth experience a struggle in their local mosques or communities, they tend to just get mad, bitter, and walk away. It's not like with our parents, we get mad, we throw a tantrum, we go into our room and slam the door. We have to be part of the solution. Okay, so if you don't voice how you feel, then it might not be resolved, to be honest. But if you do say how you feel, and you make sure you're constantly inquiring about it, then you will not only help yourself, you will help others like you that are shy to say it.
Just really quick about the solution. If you could get the number, the individual, also to say, hey, look, I'm not just telling you we have a problem. Here's some organizations that you could contact, or and that way they have. And so when some of the board members get this, like, thank you, but who do I go to? So sometimes the idea of just giving solutions and also already having those resources for them, or at least starting the process, will kind of alleviate some of that in an area where they're already uncomfortable about. And even say, hey, here's 2-3 you could talk to about this if you feel this was a taboo or un-Islamic or so on and so forth, just because every community has their own issues.
Any other questions? Comments? Now, okay, then I have to throw it back at you again, man, and you have to answer. How many, this by show of hands, how many folks here who attend a mosque or a center or an organization on their board of directors, that there are young people represented on the board of directors? There's a youth representative on the board of directors. None that you know of? Okay, then raise your hand if you would like to see youth representative on the board of directors. Okay, so keep those hands up, because now we have volunteers to change things. But now we have volunteers to change things. We see people who want to see change, and I love that Margaret Mead who said, be the change in the world that you want to see. So we know it's a good idea. Oh, wait a minute, maybe that's a bad idea. I should back up. Is that a bad idea to have youth representation on the board? Anybody say that's a bad idea? So it's a good idea. We want to see it happen. And now we know we have at least a half dozen people in here who, if one organization or one group were to advocate, like this group that brought this together today, and the youth representation from the Council of Islamic Organizations were to advocate that every mosque look at their bylaws, look at a way to figure out how to have youth representation in the organization, would you want the CLGC to advocate for this? Can I just see by show of hands how many would like to see the CLGC advocate for this? See how we get things done? We get things where it is done. We have people who advocate for this, who will put it out in their next newsletter, who will visit different organizations. We have monthly meetings of the council members, at least 60 different organizations, and that can be brought up and say, look, you don't want to lose your children, right? You know the streets and the media and the internet will get them. You could do more to help by letting them have a voice with you, and a respected voice, a voting voice that can then have feedback as far as how we improve things. So that would, by show of hands, I think we all agree that that would be something that we should have as an agenda item going forward. Am I just talking, or is everybody else with us on this one? So it's, by show of hands, we're with us on this one? Okay, all right. See how we get things done? Good. Oh, got some questions there?
The first question is, I feel pushed away when leadership in the community tries to appease authority figures, especially ones that oppress our community, i.e. FBI, White House officials, and individuals' personal things on tape. Please make sure that's clarified. This is a question I'm reading. Power or acceptance seeming more important than being forthright and standing for the community rights. So this is a very good question, because see, a lot of times we have to, I really want everyone to understand something, especially young youth, because you guys have the zeal. You want to make a change, and say, well, you know, fight the power. When I was in the 90s, it was Public Enemy, and you had a few other individuals, you know, just at that time, straight up, there was just a lot going on in the 90s where you're like, well, I want to do something, and you know, and the way you want to do it is like, well, if you don't stand up and say something or fight for it, then you're kind of like, you're selling out. And it's very important, I want you guys to understand, we have to separate from foreign policy issues with organizations and governments, even local things. Everyone has their mistakes, goods and bads. But if I look at individual bonds of many countries, there are more rights that we have here than almost any other country regarding religious rights, of having a place to pray here without, I remember 15, 20 years ago I went to Turkey, after Salah, those 15 minutes you open Salah, you pray Salah, you walk out, doors were closed. Now what might have changed. I went to India, Pakistan, where they're like, look, if you go to a Salah too much, the police are going to start looking at you, so best you don't go. When I was there for a month and a half, I'm like, are you serious? But then you realize that there are individuals. So if you don't, there are going to be, at the, the White House, yes, there might be a foreign policy. But at the same time, they have played a big part of called the faith-based initiatives, where they've had some of our own Muslims now be a part of that and have our say. If we start saying us against them, how are we going to get our voices there? Does that mean they're going to listen to everything? Every organization, every minority, every group is going to have some parts. Even locally, I'll give you an example. We're at District 219 in Skokie, Illinois. Maybe the top 3 at that time Jewish population in the United States. And you have an opportunity, I remember in 1989, so we started the first Muslim club at Von Steuben in 92. I called my buddy Azhar Usman, famous comedian, and Niles West. I said, hey buddy, it happened, And one of my non-Muslim teachers said, what, I'll watch you guys after school, because we had to get a sponsor. He stayed after school, and he said, what, because you guys are good individuals, hey, I'm Christian, I practice, but what, do your thing. And he had the opportunity. Now, at Niles West, they said they had a Bible study, they said you need to start a Quran study. Working with these officials, now we have a meditation room at both high schools. You have an opportunity to pray Jummah Salah. They separated the girls and boys for swimming, freshman class, because of things. They let you even, said if they even girls wanted to, even if it's separated, they can wear the new bikinis, those, swim attire, to even being the second district after Dearborn, Michigan. Quietly, 5 years ago, we got Eid al-Adha. We didn't make a hoopla out of it. There are individuals who are good, but we get caught up and say, well, you know what, we can't work with any government because they're not Muslim. It's a mentality what began and started ISIS. When you have us against them. Even one of the individuals that they got caught when the young kids was trying to go overseas, in one of the discussions that I had, in reading the articles, it was one where Mom even said, I kind of made it like us against them. And when you have that mentality, our beloved Prophet ﷺ loved his people. He loved even the praise. He kept on making dua and dua and dua and dua until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was like Abu Talib. At the end, he tried his best, Allah takes care of the rest. But when we come in and say, well, you know what, oh, this uncle, why did you do that? They must be sellouts. We got to step back. You don't know what you guys are doing. There is a thing called wisdom, and it comes through time. And it's something I look at myself at 18, 19, so look at myself now at 40. There's stuff you say, now I understand why, sometimes they make that decision. Even uncles are going to make mistakes. All of our uncles, youth, at the government-wise, FBI, yes, they are there to crack down, but we've also, I know that CLGC has worked with the FBI to kind of figure things out. Situation that we're having. CARE has. Yes, there have been goods, there's been some bads. But I really want to make sure to get that steps on you. There are mistakes, but please do not have this mentality of, you know what, if you work with them, you're completely like, this is haram. Please don't think you're ashamed, right? Individuals have studied this, talked about this. There are ways to work, and majority of the people at your school don't know anything about them. And if you get to have the interaction, they get old and be someone special, they'll have an idea. Like at our school, we have New Trier High School, Glenbark South High School, Country Day, Lake Forest Academy. Many of these are the movers and shakers. But we want them to come because hopefully if they saw something about Muslims now when they become later in corporate America, they'd be like, you know what, I did remember something. But if we kind of close our doors, well, you know what, who do you know, we don't even know ourselves where we're going to go in the hereafter. So let's not start judging and having, there are policies that are unacceptable and we need to stand up, we need to protest, we need to go ahead and write down on social media, no doubt about it. I'm not, don't come over here like, oh brother, you're trying to support the government. Not at all. But at the same time, we have to realize there have been some things that we have got benefits from, but there is a resource and there's a way for us to express our feelings, and there's proper channels, and we need to do that. And that's why if we unify our youth groups, just like what CRG has done, or what at a national level, what CARE has done, then you could see that we could make changes not just in one area, but the United States and even abroad.
I just want to add a point. I want everybody to think of a story that the Prophet Muhammad told us. There was once a man, and he was helping him with a load. Okay, and I want you to envision yourselves in this because most people don't understand the concept until they actually go through it themselves. So he was helping this man with this load to his home, and as we know in the history, they're walking, they're not traveling with a car or anything. They carry big loads, heavy loads, and they're walking. The whole time, this man is walking with the Prophet Muhammad talking about the Prophet Muhammad bashing him, telling him, I can't believe who this person is, and he was known as a good person, but he's saying this and he's saying that, and he's dividing the people. And imagine this whole time, you're walking with someone, and you're actually going out of your way to aid them, and they're over here bashing you without even knowing it's you that's helping them. At the end, when the man asked him, what's your name? Thank you, you're so kind. He told him, my name is Muhammad. His name is Muhammad, peace be upon him. The man was almost in shock that this whole time, this man is helping me, carrying my load, and just listening. Look at the common courtesy of just listening to me vent about him, and he didn't defend himself. He didn't say, you're wrong, how dare you talk about me this way. He just kept walking with him and doing what? An act of good. So at the end of the story, this man embraced Islam from the character of the Prophet Muhammad. So if we really want to follow the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad and really be an example of a true Muslim, then our character should outshine anyone's character that's going to come to us in attack mode. And I'll be honest with you, majority of people that inquire and attack us, see, you're going to have two different types of people. One that's just ignorant and you can't argue with like bad ignorance, okay? You can't sit there and justify right and wrong when a person is intending to prove you wrong anyway. And similar to you or us, when you're asking us a question, if your intention is to get a sincere response, and whatever that response is, you're going to follow, or you're going to come and ask me a question knowing that I'm going to answer it wrong or not to your liking. So your acceptance is going to be based on if you care if you want to say what I want to say or not. So we have to understand that our character, when it was described about the Prophet Muhammad when he was describing the best among us are the ones that have the best character and the best deen. So yes, we can pray, we can fast, we can wear our hijab, but if our character doesn't reflect our deen, then we have to recheck why we're worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why we say that we're followers of Muhammad why we want Jannah versus hellfire. So in that character, the reaction, how you should react, is just you're going to have people that are with you and against you. But sometimes, frankly, people just don't know. You know, if you're going to get offended with every response, every question somebody gives you and think they're just attacking, no, just take it as they're inquiring knowledge. And they're going to inquire that knowledge from you. You should be happy and you should feel comfortable that they had comfort to come and ask you. Okay? So as a Muslim one, we should be prepared for these questions. Why we're going to be asked these, to clear these misconceptions. But Islam is so beautiful and so logical that if you understood how to answer the questions and you implemented it correctly, any sincere person will understand that. And if they don't necessarily come convert, they will respect it. They'll respect it. But if you are going to attack everyone who's going to attack you, then what happened to your character? Are you going to be amongst the people that go with the sheep? Or are you going to be isolated, highlighted, and change, even if it means changing one person by your character? So reflecting on questions like that, I remember going through a supermarket, and I usually don't get, people that will, say something bad to me or anything. Alhamdulillah, I haven't had this experience. I know a lot of people have. But this man was looking at me, just kept looking at me. And I was literally on the phone, didn't pay too much attention to him, but I seen that he passed me a couple times looking at me. So I put my friend on hold. I was like, can I help you? At first, I was ready for an attack. I was like, I think he's going to attack me or curse at me or something. He's like, can I ask you a question? I was like, yeah. He's like, why do you wear that over your head? So at first, I was ready to battle. I was putting myself in fight mode, thinking he's going to curse at me. But in reality, he was just curious. Another incident that happened too, at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm about to go into a work conference, and I'm about to walk into a white hand to get some coffee, and I see this person just biting and looking at me. And the whole time I'm like, okay, when I look at him, what's he going to say to me? And all he said was, good morning. He was waiting. He literally slowed his pace just to say good morning. And I was ashamed of myself that I thought negative before actually the action was taken place. So handle each thing as it goes. Don't automatically take the negative ideology that someone is going to curse at me or question me or hate me or all that stuff. Don't do that. If the fact is that 1 out of 3 people in this world currently are under the Muslim umbrella, but yet look at the attacks that we're having on Muslims, on Islam. One, you should understand that no one attacks anything until they know its power. And when Muslims realize how powerful Islam is, and they actually implement Islam, we will be powerful in the sense of getting people to understand what Muslims are. Okay? So don't automatically feel like you're alone. And the second thing is, we argue liberalism. But without it, we wouldn't be here worshiping the way we worship. I went to a session with Sheikh Yasser Qadi and said, I'm so grateful my parents came to America, not Europe. Because right now, women in niqab are being arrested and fined for wearing it. So they can't even worship the way they want to worship. Okay, so I want you guys to understand, yes, there's pros and cons in being here, there's attacks, but the same freedom of speech that allows them to speak against you, you could use that same policy and procedure to speak on your behalf. So take the good out of it. Don't necessarily focus on the bad. And please, voice your opinion. Go through the proper channels. Like the brother mentioned in the beginning when he was saying that a person came to him and I don't want to vote, I'm against the system. Well, that's why these representatives don't even listen to us. They know, even though their concept is like, okay, who are you? They should worry about the concept, the people, the well-being of the people. But in reality, people are just worried about numbers and how they're going to get voted into office. They don't necessarily care about you as an individual. How do you care about an individual? We don't even care sometimes about our fellow Muslim, right? If we're not even caring about our fellow Muslim, he's supposed to be our blood or sister in Islam. How do you expect a complete stranger to even care about how you feel about what he just said? You have to voice your opinion. You have to be a supporter. You have to show your faces in these things. You have to donate to the causes. You have to volunteer in these things. So that way you can have a presence and your voice will be heard. And yes, it won't happen with the first day, the second day, the first month, the second month, maybe not the first year or first campaign. But you need to take the first step to get there. If you don't take the first step, you'll never arrive, because obviously you're not going anywhere. So something to reflect on is just understand those same rights. You have a lot of rights to fulfill in your deen. So try your best to go with the system, learn your deen. That way you can actually show your deen as it is. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when many people